Which one are you going
I'm going with
with?
the horse dewormer.
Going with
Yeah.
the horse.
Because that one
Yeah,
seems to be
every
proven.
time.
Okay.
And if you don't take the horse dewormer, you're in therapy. Maybe that's what he meant. You're in therapy, and that will cure you. Not you're in therapy. It's different. Maybe the Forbes person didn't even know.
I
He was
just
speaking
got it.
Alabamian.
Just
You're in
got it.
therapy, and
You're
it works.
in therapy.
Welcome into Alabama Unfiltered. I'm one of your hosts, Scott Beeson, and we appreciate you being with us. My other hosts are here with me, Allison Sinclair, Amy Beth Shavers. How are you ladies today?
Very good.
Doing great.
So let's get started. What's up first?
Well, we have kind of developing a new segment here because I don't know if y'all have noticed, but the headlines around America are getting crazy, and I think they deserve some attention. And it's almost one of those things where you want to go, is this real or is this not real? Where is this happening? So I've pulled out a few headlines.
Please
that
be
I
in
think-
another state. Please be in another state. Please
Don't
be in
be
another
here.
state. Don't be Alabama.
I
Don't be
thought,
Alabama.
well, I was like, we should name it Alabama or not. Because, or maybe, see, I love, that's what she said. That's what she said.
I enjoy that.
Because, like, y'all are going to go around and tell all your friends about these stories you hear, and you're going to be like, I don't know. She said that was happening. That's what she said. So, but there's a deeper issue behind all of these stories.
Okay.
Like, but it's kind of crazy what's happening in the world.
Okay.
Okay.
So, in case y'all haven't heard, a male was born in Georgia.
Okay.
She transitioned to a female. She now lives in Seattle, but she also identifies as a British Columbian wolf.
So a little boy from Georgia has evolved.
Is a transgender female,
Okay, so now the little boy from Georgia is a grown woman.
right?
Okay.
Who also has this alter ego as a British Columbia wolf. Okay, so Not the Bee came out with this.
Okay.
And here's what happened.
She couldn't be an American wolf? We don't have
She's very specific.
Oh.
No, but this is so real.
gotcha.
So she went on this morning show, and it's a London morning show called the Dory Monson Show. I've never heard of it. And so they start asking her question. Her question.
Sure. Because is she a she-wolf?
No, that's okay. So they start asking her questions like, how does this work out? How does this flesh out in your life? And so one of the interviewers said, so do you dress up and run in the woods like a wolf would? And she said, occasionally when I'm being expressive in my free time. And while in the woods, Dory asked, does Naya's wolf identity ever want to chase or eat a runt or a member of another herd? She responded, not necessarily. That would potentially be very unhealthy. Instead, her wolf identity hunts people who hurt children and animals. My prey, she said, just happens to be a bad person, so I kind of feel like a wolf on the hunt, but I'm putting them in jail rather than consuming them. So her job is actually an online investigator, and I think that's where
Okay.
that came from.
Okay.
But she it shows her, if you go to the article, in like a mask, a wolf
Okay.
mask and
Okay.
ears and all these kind of things.
Right. She got fur.
I didn't see like a fur costume.
I mean, I have so many questions. Like, does she shave her legs?
Maybe we could reach
So
out
she
and
could
ask.
be more wolfy?
I mean,
And if you're
it's a
gonna go out-
logical question.
If you're going to do your wolf thing in the woods, I mean,
I don't know. She
do
said,
you really have costumes to do that? I would think you would be running free.
well,
Like, why did just free?
there's so many questions in this. And this is why I bring this headline up, because it's funny and it kind of makes me giggle that we're actually having this conversation. But the very deep cultural, spiritual implications are very real.
yes.
And so Charlie Kirk came out and posted something on Instagram that actually makes a ton of sense. He said this whole gender fluid, non-binary, all this kind of stuff is leading us to this idea of transhumanism, which transhumanism, if you follow and research, is just the idea that you can be more than human through genetic modification. It's really like a Mark Zuckerberg metaverse, all this Oculus stuff, everything that's going like digital, where you can alter your DNA, you can live longer. And Charlie Kirk's point was that's what they're conditioning us for, to where you don't even really have to be a human. So you can be superhuman, almost it's kind of weird.
So is it more, or maybe both? Is it more cyborg-esque? I'm going to become Darth Vader.
No, it's more
Or is it-
genetic. Like, I mean,
So
honestly,
it's not robotics. It's not enhancement through.
no, it would
Okay.
be like different ways through. There's a toilet seat that actually, if you sit on the toilet seat, it can gauge the health of your heart, and it sends. It's very. That's
How
another
do you
thing.
know these things?
I'm telling you. Well, because
We want her on our team if we play. What was the game that we always used to play?
Trivial
Not
Pursuit?
Trivial Pursuit. Like we
I
need
just
you on our
ordered
team.
that. I
There's
just ordered
not a
that.
We should
category
have
for
there's
toilet
not.
Is there a
seats.
useless
So any-
data category?
But it's just getting to where you don't need humans anymore. Like you don't need to
Right.
go to the doctor to check your heart because your toilet seat
Can tell you.
can tell you. And so it really leads to like Amy Beth, I was curious because I started thinking like, can you imagine having these discussions in 1985 or like even 2005? And so what really is the cultural shift? Like how have we gotten here so quickly?
Yeah.
And I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
So I started looking into the issue because it's a great question. You know, we saw that I think it's the Netherlands that authorized gay marriage in 2000, and that's really when the door swung wide open. But then you begin to think something was happening before then. And it was 1974, if we're specifically speaking about homosexuality, when the American Psychological Association took it off the books as being classified as an illness and took it away. If you look at the roots of just, you'd say homosexuality, just in general, a movement, it's been about 150 years that it's been a movement in the U.S. But we all know that it's been around since time began. And so because you think, well, was it gay marriage? No, there was something else that had to happen. And I think it was when the doctors specifically began to take the labels off of it that people began to feel more free.
But don't you think this enters into a whole other dimension when you can, and it's like last
Yes.
podcast we talked about furries and now it's generally accepted. And they were saying on this morning show that it was kind of like they were so nonchalant that this male turned female turned wolf was a wolf.
Yes.
They were kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool.
But aren't we taught that a little bit? Like, oh well, you do your thing, you do this. It's fine. It's fine. And there's a point. There's a place to that. I'm for liberty. I'm for freedom. If you want to do that, great. But then there's a societal line. There's children being taught. There's the forced acceptance of things. The government recognizing these things, and then that really brings everyone into the quagmire, as I would say. And what do you do with it, and how do you decide what is right, what is wrong, and there is all those spiritual undertones, I guess. I mean, God created them male and female, and that's the way it is, and we're made in the image of God, and then all these things kind of just come along and chip away at it just a little bit, and it all seems to be accelerating.
It's just a very slippery slope.
It
And I
is.
think you see that's the natural inclination towards human life, human beings, is towards disorganization. I think it's called entropy, where, things don't naturally just organize and get better. They slowly slip and disorganize. And that's what's happening.
Well, think about the march too, because first it was homosexuality, and then immediately after gay marriage was made up by the United States Supreme Court, transgenderism started. I'm talking
Yes.
like the
Yeah.
next week or something.
Yes.
And now we've got the lady who thinks she's a wolf, and some of us are going, can't we just be regular transgender? You know what I'm saying? The next step is already passing us.
right.
Yeah.
We're
And it's
on to
scary
being a
how
totally
fast.
different animal, where we're back to going, golly, I just can't we just stay human beings?
Yeah.
So that next step is already occurring.
It's
Yeah.
scary fast.
It really is.
But,
they're not from Alabama. Is that the?
just Georgia.
It's close.
Still a southern
real
state.
close.
Yeah, it's not from some places that
But
you
they
would
did go to
expect.
Seattle.
They live in Seattle. I guess the woods, it lends itself towards a more wolf.
I thought the vampire. Well, the wolves are there
No,
too.
yeah,
the
they do.
vampires.
The wolves.
I mean, it's
Because
all
y'all know
there.
that. What is that movie? Y'all are ladies. Y'all know exactly.
Twilight.
I knew.
Duh.
I knew y'all would know.
So
The
good.
books are better.
It's terrible.
Really?
The guy's creepy
books are
looking.
He's not that creepy.
He's
a stinking
creepy.
vampire.
Yeah, it was
But he
awesome.
looks just like that in real life.
He does, which, by the way, I don't like that new commercial he's in where he
But I
sings
don't
and
even
dances.
know.
Have you seen the new commercial? It's a cologne. And I'm like, Chris Shaver, you may not wear that cologne just because it's so weird. The movie, however,
You liked him?
fabulous. I did.
I don't think this is
Why
a
do
good
women
segue.
like that?
Hold
No,
on.
you don't?
Well, no,
I mean,
do.
I'm
I
really
love
trying
it.
to find out because
No,
these
I
are
love
questions
it.
that men need to know in Alabama. Why do women like the Twilight movies?
I don't like the movies. I like the books. And I
Oh,
judged
so
it. And then it was like I bought the box set, which is
Well, yeah, I don't
Weird.
understand that. There had to be
it
a
was years
natural
ago.
affinity for it
I
just to go
don't
get the
know.
books.
Don't you think, though, we like it because it's a love story? And it was.
not that gushy. I generally don't like love stories.
I
mean,
think-
I do, but I don't know. You do.
I think it was a love story.
You're
I mean, I
way
think
sweeter
You think
than
is what
me.
it is? Just
I-
love story?
I think it was the hero's journey because there was restraint, there was love, there was all the
Okay. Yeah,
things.
no, that's right.
And he fought for her, and that's what we
Oh,
want. I think
right.
that's a natural inclination in a woman's heart if she's honest in this world of we're all equal. We still
Still want the knight in shining armor?
want the knight in shining armor, and we
Yeah,
still
that's
want to be
right.
fought for. And I
You're
think
right.
there was some kind of romance to that, especially to a wolf and a vampire, because that makes perfect sense.
True. It's so true. It's really embarrassing if you think about it.
It is so embarrassing.
Let's
But
move
that's
on.
what sci-fi.
because-
Anyway,
Well, we're moving on to a
I've
really
actually learned a lot.
interesting story.
Okay.
You're going to learn even more now. So Forbes.com actually published this, this is kind of,
Forbes.
this is in Alabama or not. And fortunately or unfortunately, it's Alabama. So if anyone is familiar with Christopher Key, he's now the vaccine police. And actually he's been on Stu Peters' podcast. Like he's made his
He's
way.
been on my radio program.
He has?
He has been.
He's from Birmingham.
I know him. I mean, he grew up in the community right beside mine.
Well, my first run-in with him was, did y'all ever see the guy that got arrested at Whole Foods in Mountain Brook because he wouldn't wear a mask, and it's like him getting thrown into a cop car, and this was 2020 at some point, and he's like got his Constitution, and I'm like, yeah. But then like now he's progressed into and actually has done a lot of good investigative work on vaccine safety and things. But his latest is, and this is published in Forbes, he's being interviewed and he's speaking, and he says, this is the line out of Forbes. Key eventually got to his okay, let me give you the title first. The title is Vaccine Police Founder Claims Drinking Your Own Urine is a COVID-19 Antidote. So this is
well, maybe he
Wait,
meant it
wait.
was okay.
So this is he eventually got to his key urine punchline with the antidote that we have seen now, and we have tons and tons of research, is urine therapy. So I've never even heard of urine therapy.
I haven't either.
I don't think I want to know what urine therapy is. Okay, good news. This is not your question. Scott,
Oh no.
have you ever heard of urine
I have
therapy?
never heard of urine therapy. I've always wondered about whether or not you're really supposed to do that if you're like dehydrated. You know, in
Right.
the movies,
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
dehydrating and all that.
Right.
And I don't even know. I don't even think it's supposed to be a good idea
Well,
then.
I think it's
You just-
okay. Whoa, did I just say that?
It's
No.
okay when.
No, well, I
When?
was gonna say maybe if you're dying, it might be worth
Yes,
it because
just a
I do
shot.
know. I
It's
think
just-
it's
it's my
okay if
one
long as
chance.
there's no like bacterial or urinary tract infection.
Nah,
Okay,
I'm
we're
sure
about
you're
to do
about
some
I'm
research.
sure you're about to die, and you're like, "Are you sure there's no?
But his
you're not another
quote-
infection?"
His quote is, "We have tons and tons of research on urine therapy," and I'm like, "What in the
Now,
world?"
no, okay. I'm not saying he didn't say that because
There's a video.
But do you get to see before that? Because I'm thinking,
Okay.
okay, I'm doing a press conference. I'm talking to the bad guys in the mainstream media. I learned this lesson a long time ago when I was in the legislature. You have a press conference, say what you want to say, answer maybe 2 questions, and get out of there. Because they'll just keep talking to you, and you'll keep talking, and you'll feel more comfortable, and they'll want you to explain this and
Right.
explain that, and you explain it, and all of a sudden the headline comes out and you're like, wait a minute. That was 20 minutes into the conversation and I was talking about this and I was talking about that. And then I was like, it'd be like this happening. And they're like, Scott says this is. So could it possibly, I'm not saying, could it possibly be he says, you know what? You're in therapy, work as good as all those jabs y'all keep telling everybody to get.
I mean, you're very kind in thinking that way. and I do commend you for that. The follow-up, and I didn't write this down, but the follow-up is basically him saying that God gave us everything we need to cure our ailments. And so I don't know. I should go back and watch the entire video. I just read the article, but I was like,
so he explained it. He might have explained it a little more.
He explained it a little more. So
because I'm defending
urine therapy or horse paste
You're
to cure COVID. Which one are you going
I'm going
with?
with the horse dewormer.
I'm going with the horse.
Because that one seems to be
every
proven.
time.
Okay.
And if you don't take the horse dewormer, you're in therapy. Maybe that's what he meant. You're in therapy, and that will cure you. Not urine therapy. It's different. Maybe the Forbes person didn't even know. He was speaking Alabamian. You're in therapy, and it works.
Therapy.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
It makes
depends how you spell
perfect
it.
sense.
This article and video will be in the show notes, and you need to go watch it. And then you can leave comments as to if you think he was saying you're in therapy or urine therapy.
If because I did see the articles, I think there was an Axios article and a couple others that said he was out, trying to arrest Democrat governors, and I'm like, no, he's trying to arrest all governors that are for all these things.
He has this sports
It's got
car
a nice
that's
wrap on it.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's wrapped. It says vaccine police, and somebody spotted it on 280 the other day.
Come on.
No, I'm serious.
Let's go find it.
He would come on the
He
program.
would so come on our show.
I mean, like, I
think I
appreciate
know him.
anyone who's
think
done the
you do.
research. Like, I don't care what it is. If you've put the time in, I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
He is going to be okay. I've talked to him on my radio program. He will be right a lot.
I was about to say, what if we're all drinking our urine in 6 months and we look back on this and we're like,
He knew.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
From Allison
I'm
Sinclair.
going to drink Mountain Dew.
No.
That's what she
pretend-
said.
no,
I'm going to pretend
Put
it's
it in your-
yeah.
oh, okay. Let's revisit that in a few months, and we'll see if we can
Just
get
see if it's right.
the vaccine.
A bunch
police
of the
on our show.
conspiracies have turned out to be
No,
right.
I know, but I don't know.
You don't think
I
that
don't
one?
know biologically if that. But hey, if I'm wrong, I'll eat my words, and I will.
You
It
know
is
what?
antiseptic.
We could
I
call...
about said I will drink urine on this show.
Don't say it.
Please don't say that.
Anything could be right. Okay, all right. Off of that. Did y'all tell? Are y'all the ones who told me about? And it may not have been on the show. It might have been between shows. How to pass a COVID test?
It was me.
Oh,
Okay, somebody heard.
yes.
Don't,
No,
you don't.
we
I mean, I don't
talked
have
about
to.
that when
but-
I was in Mexico because we were really nervous about that. There's lots of options.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another show.
Well, you can betadine, rum,
Which one's betadine? What is that?
The
Listerine.
brownish looking one.
That looks
the
like
doctors
the stuff
have.
they used to put on you when you were a little kid. That's
Yes,
betadine.
that's betadine.
I
Not
learned the
just-
hard way though. If you use betadine, it comes off on the Q-tip, and they might know
They could see it. Right.
because when they swab it, the betadine
It's
dye.
still brown
Yeah,
in there, and they're
and
like,
so-
"You have a terrible infection. This is brown.
Have you
may not have
bled
COVID,
this?
but you're gonna die at any moment."
Brain bleed.
Good point.
Somebody tried hand sanitizer on a whim because they didn't have anything
Yeah,
else.
right,
That
might
did
shit.
not work.
It didn't
Listerine
work?
works.
Listerine.
Listerine does. Why does the hand sanitizer not work?
I don't know. He said his brain was on fire, but he still tested positive.
For the love. Really?
Yeah, no, I'm serious. He was like,
Oh, no.
yeah, still tested positive.
No. That's terrible.
It really is.
Oh, my word.
Okay, I've got two more things to get through if y'all are good with that. And these are less well,
So we're one for
hopefully.
one. One Alabamian,
Yeah.
one
not.
Georgian.
Okay.
Okay.
So this you will know is not Alabama, but it's interesting. So Andrew Torba, who started Gab, has launched Gab Marketplace. And it's interesting to me because, and Andrew is unapologetically a Christian, like will say what he means, like will say anything to the left and call anybody out. And so his whole goal is to create this parallel society. What he says about it's kind of like almost like a patriot eBay, and there's job listings and
Okay.
there's community chat groups, and you can trade things and you can buy things. And his quote is, "We must support business owners and creators who share our values. This is the only way that we will free ourselves from the globalist system of enslavement, degeneracy, and destruction." And it's really interesting because on one hand, I see that, like where Christians or unvaccinated people, or, and those don't necessarily correlate, but I'm just saying where there's this whole population of people that are being rejected from society. So how do you, to some extent, it's necessary. And then the other part of me is like, that is so un-American and it's so ungodly, maybe even. But then I wrestle with, I don't know if it really is. Like, it just is so unnatural. Like,
what, to have your own little cliquish community that you're like, oh, this is for.
well, I mean, then you're kind of going into the whole, like, should we split the red states and the blue states? You know, like, do we just divide it?
I'm okay with that.
You get one coast and the other gets the other, and we just live happily ever after on our own. Something doesn't sit well. I don't know. That might be what we're headed towards. But what do you think? I mean, like, what?
I mean, I think that at some point you may have to, but I'm kind of with you. Like, my natural instinct is that doesn't feel right, because then that means, have we given up at that point?
Right. It doesn't feel inclusive.
Have we just like picked up the crayons and gone into the house and like, hey, we're done?
Right.
Or is it an idea worth considering and trying? Because there may be a tipping point, and I think it would take a tipping point in order for most people to trade and do business that way. And I think as more and more people are vaccine free, or their beliefs come out and they're rejected for those beliefs, we may need a shelter. And that might work, but I think right now it doesn't feel right, because I think there's a lot of fight left in people to say, actually, no, you can't reject me for my views and my beliefs. That's not American, like you said.
So maybe he's just being proactive, but it is interesting. He's creating like its own, not currency, but banking system and platform for that, financial system, which, you know, we've seen lots of right-leaning people. Wells Fargo has kicked them out, you know, and closed their bank accounts. I think even Michael Flynn had to go through that. And so maybe this is necessary. It just smacks me as weird.
I mean, it does. It feels weird, but you can't wait till you have to have it.
Right.
And then wish you had it.
Right.
So I'm okay with it. As far as creating some alternatives, it actually gives an incentive to the ones who believe they are totally in charge, and they'll decide what you can say and who you can do business with.
Right.
And I mean, it was the gun manufacturers and people making ammunition and stuff that where banks were saying, well, we're not going to even let you bank here.
Right.
And I think it was the Obama administration that was supporting those kinds of moves. So, and we didn't all rally around those people then. We're like, well, that's them.
Right.
And then now we're seeing the Michael Flynn's, the guy with MyPillow facing all the things they've faced. People being, who was it? Michelle Malkin,
Yeah.
who can't use, what is it, Airbnb or one of those.
Yeah.
I mean,
they just decided, well, we don't like your politics. You can't use us.
Well,
and then the
really-
conservatives run out and go, well, it's free market. You know, you can't let the free enterprise. They can just do whatever they want. They're private. And I'm just like, come over here. Let me thump you in the head. I mean, that's not the way it works.
Yeah.
it's not.
Well, really, the left forced us into this position.
Yes.
So
It's trash talking in the ball game.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a good way to put
I
it.
say, okay, look, don't start it. But if the kid on the other team is talking, you got to play it back and get inside his head and mess up his game.
Don't throw the first
Fine.
punch.
Just don't
but
throw
if they come after you, game
you
on.
Game on.
That's what we told our boys. Well, I guess even our girls.
We've told our
sure
kids
you-
the same thing. Both. We just had to have that conversation with Molly recently. We got
See?
your back. You got to
See?
fight.
Yeah.
If that ever happens, like God forbid,
Mm-hmm.
got
And you
your
avoid
back.
it at all costs.
we'll,
and
we'll
all those kind
defend
of things.
you
but-
every time.
Right. And that's really kind of where we are. What are these options? I mean, we have to start doing some of these things on our own. And maybe it just has a financial impact on the powers that be. And then they say, you know what? That's just really not a good idea. Can't we just all play together?
Right.
Well, like
Which would-
Facebook tanked this week. Their stocks just plummeted.
Who was
and-
sad about that?
And,
Right. I wasn't
you
tore
know,
up.
at some point, maybe we do make a difference that way, because your dollar is your vote
Mm-hmm.
towards
That's right.
the free market.
Right. Yeah. The free market.
The free
It's all
market,
free market.
capitalism.
Right. The in marketplace is the one thing I care about on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm looking for, there's got to be a deal out there,
Yeah.
and it's terrible. Terrible app anyway. It crashes all the time on my iPad. So
Well, you should try Gab Marketplace.
Gab Marketplace.
I'll tell Chris Shaver. He loves to
He
buy
likes
and
the
sell
marketplace.
stuff.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And Will.
See,
Will, they're
I'm
big fans.
My wife has banned me from yard sales because I come back with it. We have a yard sale so we can sell our junk to somebody else, and
And
then
then
I
get
go
commission.
and retrieve more from other people's yard sales. So I just
Not
can't.
your wife. That's you.
Oh, I love some deals at a yard sale. But I have
fun. We need to go thrifting.
I have
We
a
need to do a
formula.
show on
I have a
thrifting.
formula
Yes.
though. If it's not like 25% of what the retail cost was or less, it's not a deal.
Oh, I'm totally emotional. Whatever.
Okay.
Seems like a good deal.
Yes.
All right, last one. This is kind of weird. Alabama or not? Well, the Department of Justice is reportedly considering opening safe injection sites. Now, during the Trump era, they totally dogged this idea because they said it would be utterly incompatible with local governments and how they should combat the opioid epidemic. So it's interesting on the West Coast. Well, actually, this is in New York, so it's not Alabama. Could be soon, considering we just legalized medical marijuana, which is really pretty much a recreational marijuana bill. But anyway, it says, this is the quote from the New York Post: overdose prevention centers are a safe and effective way to address the opioid crisis. I'm proud to show cities in this country that after decades of failure, a smarter approach is possible. Bill de Blasio. I can't even wrap my brain around that logic. And so the idea is to give drug addicts off the street a safe place to go where taxpayers will pay for their Narcan to save them if they happen to overdose or have a reaction right after they shoot up. And I think New York is supplying the needles and they're supplying all the clean.
Now, is this in the same vein? Is it the same program? There's like $40 billion, 39, something, so many $1 billion, maybe $1 million for the free crack pipe thing from the Biden administration.
Oh, okay. I just saw the memes with the crack pipe, but
Right.
yes, that is it.
Okay, it's
That's
all
it.
in there together. It's a
That's-
grant program
Right.
put out by the federal government.
Right.
Any state municipality can apply for it, and you use this money for. And they have a term. They have all these terms, and I can't keep up with them all. It's like safer drug use or
Yes, yeah.
something, and you're like, how does that? I don't really understand. Are we helping? Are we supporting?
Right.
Because if you're giving me the government issue Hunter Biden approved, because he checks them all probably to make sure they work right. The Biden approved crack pipe, that means that I don't have to spend my money on that. I can buy more crack.
Right.
Isn't that kind of how it works?
Yeah.
It's difficult though, because part of me, the compassionate part who has friends or relatives that have dealt with, alcohol addiction or
Yes.
drug addiction.
And it's terrible.
It's terrible and it's heartbreaking and it destroys lives and their lives are in danger as well. But is this the solution for making it easier? What it's like not disciplining your kids. Like you've got to have some sort of stopgap there or it's just a free for all.
Right.
What was the
I don't
name of
know.
the person, they used the term, facilitator?
Yeah.
The person who wouldn't say, hey, you've got to stop this. Hey, that's a problem. And I just need $20 more. And you
Right.
Right.
people that
You're an
Oh, the
enabler.
enabler.
enabler. I said
Enabler.
facilitator.
Yeah.
Enabler.
Same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So the government
Is your enabler.
is kind of an enabler with this.
And so our tax dollars are going to help. I don't know. It makes my head hurt. So I was curious. And my question for you was like, as a legislator, when you were in the Senate, did you deal with this at all? Because I feel like the opioid crisis isn't as much in the spotlight right now. But were there any bills? Like what would Alabama, you might not be able to infer that, but what would our response be? Or what was the view of the crisis?
A lot of times, most of the time, from the conservative viewpoint, and we didn't fight this out a whole lot. The legalizing marijuana kind of came later. When I was there, the first thing was the oils. And
CBD oil.
yes, and getting UAB to do some studies, and it was going to help the children that had what is
Epilepsy.
yeah, some of those things that would have these seizures.
Mhm.
And
remember that.
everybody is for that. And here's the thing that gets me is I think most people are for anything that will help someone medically.
Right.
And I guess I'm getting off your topic a little bit, but that should be really what we're focused on. But there is a huge undercurrent of pressure to really open all these things up. And I kind of see it, the analogous situation is the emotional support animals.
Yes.
Mm.
Okay, because so you have to, you look at the laws and you say, okay, people need these support animals. You have people who are blind. You have so and so. They're actually trained animals to help this person function. Of course, we'll let them in the plane. Of course, we'll let them in the restaurant. Of course, we will do all that. And then all of a sudden, we end up with people with emotional support ponies, wanting them in the plane, iguanas, people wandering around everywhere with puppies.
Yes.
You got the person right beside you at the restaurant's got a dog up in their lap, sitting on, paws on the table, eating out of the dish, and you're like, wait a minute, how did this come from? Yes, let's make sure that support dog is there helping the person who can't see.
Right.
And that's kind of how I see what we're doing with the marijuana thing. We want to help people. We want the medicinal part, and everybody's going to say, hey, I've got a issue, and it's really a medicine for me.
Mm-hmm. That's a whole other podcast. I feel like we could, because
Yeah.
it's a very nuanced issue
Right.
that I think a lot of people don't think about past the compassion part, which we're
Right.
all compassionate,
Mhm.
but there's a huge societal fallout potentially, and you look at other states. So I'm with you, and I don't know what this looks like. I mean, in Washington and Oregon, you can carry cocaine, you can carry meth, and as long as it's a small amount, they won't arrest you. Again, that's a slippery slope. Just leave your 100 pounds at home.
Right.
You can always run back in between bars or whatever. And it's just bizarre.
Kind of like the opioid thing, and that is a whole another show. That was a legal drug,
Right.
and
Right.
people could get it legally. And that should be the way. That's the way we'll do it. We'll treat these things just like we do regular drugs. Really?
Yeah.
Well, how did it go with opioids?
Not-
you
not
know what I'm
well.
saying?
Right.
That was regulated, and doctors were supposed to be watching it and the whole 9 yards, and it became a huge epidemic affecting millions and millions of people. I don't understand why with marijuana and LSD and heroin, those will be different. It'll work out perfectly if we have those same people who facilitated the abuse of opioids running it.
Well, you look at San Francisco, and like you've got homeless people, addicts pooping on the street. I mean, you can't even walk down the street. It's like that's not dog poop. That's maybe human poop. I mean, it's just, so I just was curious. It might be something to revisit, like as if this does pass and start happening,
Right.
it might be Alabama.
Don't you think Alabama will sign up for the grant money? I mean,
course
is
they
there
will.
any grant money that we don't just grovel in front of the federal government and try to get?
Pretend like we have no money at all.
Yes.
It's our
We're broke.
favorite thing
we
to do.
have to have it, and we'll do whatever you say if you'll give us the money.
Yeah. It's
I like
really
that.
not good.
Well, those are my headlines. I hope that was totally entertaining and insightful and informative, because the reality is there's some crazy stuff happening. And as much as we want to giggle and meow about the furries like I did last week, it's some serious stuff, especially for our kids. So
That's one of the big problems is children that can't fully understand life in general yet. That's why they're children. That's why we don't just send them out into the world
Right.
when they're 5, are just being inundated with all kind of crazy stuff that I didn't even know existed
yeah,
till I was
Right.
an
and
adult.
you shouldn't have.
No,
these
I'm
kids
glad.
shouldn't know what they know.
Right.
They really shouldn't. And there's a couple books I'll share with you guys later that Chris and I read about the opioid crisis that is just mind blowing, that relates into heroin. And it's unbelievable how deep it is. So I
Right.
think we have to come back to this because marijuana is the gateway.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be a fascinating discussion, because then on the other side, my husband sees the fallout
Right.
from the common use of marijuana and
Right.
what that looks like.
What it
just to your
really does,
body.
because we're
What it
taught
really
that
does.
it makes you study better.
No.
And it's a wonder drug.
Awful for your heart. I'll just leave it right there. And we'll carry on.
Yeah, we'll
come
do
back
that.
to it.
We'll do that another time, I
come back.
guess. Yes.
Okay, so here we go. Imagine that there is a town that lives up to every single stereotype about Alabama. Okay, so like the word deliverance comes to mind. only on a traffic level. Okay. But anyway, 1,200 residents, little town called Brookside. We've all heard of it. It's made the national news.
I know where it is. I have friends who
1,200
live there.
residents, a great little 5 Mile Creek. I've kayaked the creek. I will never go back because I saw a water moccasin. So I'm never going
You
back.
didn't think that was there?
Oh, that's
Well,
just nature.
I did. See, you sound like
It's
my
just
daughter.
organic. He was organic.
Well, he was there, and this is what
You're
one of
in
my
his
daughters tries to
world.
tell me. Like, this is what you're going to see. I'm like, nope, done.
Do you know how many others you passed on
a
the
lot,
way down?
a lot. And I thank Jesus I didn't see him.
Yeah.
Okay, not interested in the snake.
Maybe don't go back
I'm never
for
going
the story
back.
you're about to tell.
I'm never going back. So it's like postage stamp small. Okay.
Yes, it's a small place.
It sounds idyllic, except there are 8 lawsuits right now. The former chief of police and his next in command have resigned. They called a town hall last week, and originally it said 150, but really it looks like more like 200 people showed up to voice their concerns. And they have another one Thursday night at George Washington Carver High School. And Representative, and I'm going to say her name wrong, so would you tell me her name? Because she's been fantastic on this.
Gwendolyn Gavan.
Gavan. She's been amazing.
One of my friends.
So over the last 2 years, most likely longer, they've been accused of over-policing, corruption, harassment, fabricating charges, hello, Deliverance, malpractice, speed traps. I mean, it's basically terrifying. There are people who have had their cars taken away from them. They don't know where their cars are. The city of Hoover had 100 cars towed in 1 year. Brookside, 500.
What?
There's a lot of criminals. A lot of criminal
There's
activity
so
up
much
there.
criminal activity in the tiny town of Brookside.
Yes.
All right.
Most people
so,
most people drive through. And like I said, I know where Brookside is. It's
Pass
right
through
beside
town.
Gardendale. The kids from there go to school. It's all in the same school district, the whole 9 yards. Friends of mine grew up there. The former mayor who passed away, not the new ones, but the former mayor, I knew him. And it's weird how this has all happened in the last couple of years. And then there's just so many questions like, who didn't know this? If you're a city council person, you're like, wow, we're sure making a lot of money. No
Right.
one asked that question. And then I have this question is, did they just do on a grand scale what a lot of little places do? You're driving to the beach, you're driving to wherever, there's all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, is the speed limit here really 25 miles an hour? And where were you sitting? And you sure do have, that's a nice car. That's a nice one. Wait, how much money do y'all make here? Did they just take everything to the nth degree?
I mean, I think maybe they did, because that was one of the questions that she posed in her press conferences. Where did that money go? Because the highest paid police officer was like, the top of it was maybe $15 an hour.
Right.
The lowest paid was $12.50 an hour.
Right.
So they have all this money. And for example, she said, after over a $50 ticket, they were pocketing upwards of $500. Where did that money go?
Right.
So it's a really good question. And so that's it. Yes, the heart of it is, well, I'll ask you in a minute what the heart of it you think is, but I know you have personal experience in your family
Yes,
with that town.
I know someone who has a business. He drives through that town to come back to our side of town. And he's driving through one evening, and same road all the time, almost every day, gets pulled over in Brookside. And the police officer tells him, hey, the speed limit, or why did I pull you over, whatever. He's being very nice to him. The speed limit here is, I'll say, 35 miles an hour. And the person I know says, no, it's 45 miles an hour. No, sir, it's 35 miles an hour, and you were going 45. He's like, no, it's 45. No, it's 35. So it's there. And then this person says, well, I know y'all took the signs down, but the signs have always been 45. And so the police officer decides to argue. And this guy's a smart guy. And he says, so it's 35, right? Yes, sir, it's 35. Well, do you see this hazard sign right up here where we're going to go into the turn? Yes, what about it? Well, it says 40, which used to mean I need to slow down from 45 to 40 to make the turn. But you're telling me that sign says speed up from 35 to 40 to make the turn.
Nice.
Wow.
Police officer said, you have a nice day, sir.
Wow.
So it's those kinds of things.
Right.
But here's the one that I want to ask you about, because I asked someone who should kind of know. And I think the whole Brookside thing gets a little deeper. The Birmingham News, they don't care. They didn't care where Brookside was. Brookside's been there it was a Russian mining town. And all of a sudden, this is a big deal.
Right.
So you have to say, why do they care? Do they really care about people getting tickets they don't really deserve and all that kind of stuff? It goes on all over the place. And yes, it's to the nth degree. I get it. But this person said, well, there's going to be some challenges there. Everyone thinks that this is all a bunch of slam dunk cases, but if you're going a couple miles an hour over the speed limit, is that breaking the law? And the answer is yes. Yeah. Can you get a ticket for going a couple miles an hour over the speed limit? Absolutely, you can. If you don't show up in court, can they impound your car? Yes, they can. Do I think they were running a racket? Yes. Did say they accidentally charged someone with the same name as someone else? Well, the person says, well, we made a mistake. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what happens? We made a mistake. We charged Scott Beeson, and the person in the car was Scott Beeson. Something like that. So there's a very good chance that all of this is legal, but not ethical. And then it gets even better. The next one is one of the and I hate to make it all political, but one of the things that a lot of places around the country are experiencing is we need to do away with a lot of these minor crimes. We won't enforce this crime, won't enforce that crime. And oh, by the way, we don't like these municipal courts. We need to bring it all up to the bigger courts, the county courts, because the county courts will really, they'll be more honest and they'll do a good job. George Soros can help support who gets elected. The district attorney's in charge of that, and he might be a Soros-funded guy. So is there any part of this, and I'm not defending them, I think it's corrupt, and I think they're going to find out some really bad stuff, but I don't want any of us to get sucked into this, well, yes, let's do away with the court in Hoover, let's do away with the court in this place, because all those little courts are all redneck. And that's not the case. We need to deal with this little town and what happened there and fix that and not get sucked into these bigger overarching propaganda kind of efforts.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that those calls to completely just do away with the police force are legit? Do you think that there has been plans underway to create this desire and sudden fervor to do away with the police force? Has this been in the works? I mean, because we look at all the things we're walking through right now in life and you go, wait, how long have you guys planned this?
How long have you been working on this?
I didn't even know Brookside was a place.
Yeah,
it is barely a place. I mean, I was surprised they had 1,200 citizens.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I wouldn't think that many people actually live there. But, and that's part of the problem. They're always working, always thinking, always. And then when something happens, when someone gives them a good reason, they just sit there ready. And then somebody like the law enforcement at Brookside and the city councilman, whoever's involved in this thing, abuse the system. Mm-hmm. And someone's right there, Johnny on the spot. Okay, yeah, we've got a lot of fixes for this. Let's fix it in an overarching way, and it'll never happen again, and we'll protect everybody.
I mean, can you imagine what it would be like to be a citizen of that community and you've been pulled over or your car's been taken away, or let's say you weren't even speeding at all because they expanded the town limits.
Right.
What would you say if you were able to go and you were one of the women that had been pulled over? Your car's gone. Mm-hmm. The median income in that area is about, I think,
it's very low.
$45,000. No, $38,000. It was very low. What would you say as a female going through there, feeling like you'd been targeted?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. If you listen to Representative Gavan, who is hysterical, by the way, if you've ever watched her on the House floor, she's so funny. She's usually totally on the other side of the aisle from probably us. But listening to her press conference yesterday, I mean, everything she said, this isn't a partisan issue. This is just a humanity issue and what's right and what's wrong. And so, and she was talking about how they confiscated guns. She was saying that people were being pulled naked out of their homes, and that women didn't, especially women. Apparently, there's lots of horror stories. I haven't heard that yet. And if you look at the financial statements of the police department, it went from like 2 part-time people to 9 full-time officers. And so clearly this is more than just getting pulled over in op, which is where everybody gets stopped, on your way to the beach, where, so something's awry and there's a lot of corruption. I mean, she was talking about bringing down the current mayor, who actually, I can't remember when he got in. And so probably one of the things that did come up was dismantling the police department, which, I don't know, Jefferson County would just take it over. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is there, but something's not right in that whole little town.
I don't want anyone to think I'm defending it in any way. I think it is horribly corrupt. I'm just trying to warn people that there's going to be some defense in some ways, even though I do think we're going to find out horrible things occurred. And I think they abused the law, which is a really good thing for all of us to stand back and kind of learn from this. Is the law can be abused. And what do you do when the law is being abused? Who do you turn to? Which is some of the whole argument for why we have all the rights that we have, and that we need honest people at every level of office, and there needs to be someone that you can appeal to, and hopefully the person you appeal to says, yeah, we're going to fix this. And did anyone appeal to anyone in this whole time? Did anyone say, hey, we need to call the Attorney General's office?
Yeah,
did anyone know? No one called anyone.
If I had been pulled over, maybe not when I was younger, I was much more timid.
Right.
Now it's like, game on. I don't even really care who you are. I'm going to call you out. I would have just, I don't know, blown up the whole system, or I hope I would have. But a lot of people don't have the resources to do that.
Right.
They
They
don't
don't.
have.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. I feel for those people that their lives have been greatly impacted by this. And, the good thing that has come out of this is that I really see it as an opportunity. As I'm listening to Representative Van, I'm like, yes, like I'm agreeing with her. And usually
That's
I
how I
don't.
felt.
Right.
And so I'm like, this is a great opportunity to kind of bridge the gap and come together for something that is just plain right. The only thing that made me nervous was she said she had contacted the Southern Poverty Law Center, which is very left-leaning. And I hope this
Leaning? Left-leaning?
Okay, leftist. But this is a great opportunity for her. And I hope that she continues in these conversations in these town halls to advocate for all people.
Yes.
Not just
Yes.
black, not just white, not just Democrats, not just Republicans, not just women, not just men. This is a great opportunity just to come together as human beings to advocate for the right thing. So I don't know. It's an interesting story. Somebody described it to me and they said it's like a Southern Gothic novel. It's just
Absolutely.
like
It's
like
a,
our
it's like a
dead
ready-made
body's
plot.
going to show up and
I think it is going to get worse, though. I think you're going to find out. Oh, God. I mean, I'm just saying all the things we know. I think we're going to end up finding out that people were trying to, hey, how do I get out of this? How do I get my car back?
extortion and
What-
blackmail.
What
like
can
they're
I do
playing
for you?
behind the scenes.
I just think it's just going to, it really is. I mean, before it's all over, we're going to find out, because it didn't sound like they had the most upstanding folks working there
no.
to start with.
Not at all. No, I think it's a situation that is terrible. I think it is cruel to the residents because people knew no one was watching.
Right.
So your original question is why now? Why are people suddenly interested? So you have this horrible situation with people they know can't do anything about it. You
Right.
have some horrifying stories we're about to find out. And then that's just here. When we finally do a deep
Yes.
dive, it's something we need to keep our eyes on.
No, absolutely.
Sure.
So, and I hear there's
Well-
something you really want to talk
Well,
about.
I don't know. I think we may have run out of time. It's okay, because we'll still be able to do that next week, I think. But I want y'all to be able to wrap up. Anything else y'all want to, any last words?
Last call.
No last call, except we will talk about the Olympics because I wanted to be an ice skater when I was in 4th grade.
Did you? One year?
Just for 5 minutes.
Will the Olympics still be on for our next episode next
I think
week?
so. Yes.
okay, so we'll tease for next week. Next week we will talk about the Olympics a little bit because a lot of people say, boycott it. We can't watch it. We're going to stop the commies. And then other people like myself are like, hey, the athletes didn't have anything to do with the commies. We didn't do anything about the communists for the last 20 years. Why did we decide to make those people sacrifice while we keep buying our Chinese-made toasters and everything's cheap and our government's funded by, campaign contributions from the Chi-Coms? Why should the athletes sacrifice? That's my question for next week, and you cannot answer it.
Oh, it's so hard. Okay. Okay.
Hey, thank
next
y'all for watching us. You can find us at all the usual places. Give us a thumbs up or a 5 stars, and we'll be back next week.